And hi, everybody. Welcome to Rick Snider's Washington on YouTube, where you get the whole story. So please like, share, subscribe, comment, and hit the thanks button. And after taking a week off, we'll see how many of you come back this week. Certainly was a busy week, as usual. Steve, there you are. I just wondered if you'd be the first one up again. We take a week off, people forget about you at times. And not that this is brought to you by. But for those of you watching, especially on replay later, my newest book is out, $15. You can get it from Amazon.com, or you can go to monumentalthoughts.com and get it. Presidents, all the presidents, what they drank, when they drank, how they drank, you name it, they got it. So if you're watching it, help support the cause, a little bit of history. It's a fun read. And you'll find out what your favorite president liked to drink. And if you don't have a favorite president, well, I talk about first ladies too. All right, so we'll let the room figuratively fill up. Since I don't know, I have a feeling since I took a break, half of you won't be back, and that's okay. I need a break once in a while. That was our first Monday off in about 6 months, and I won't do every Monday in the off season, but as long as something's going on. Next week, of course, is free agency, so I'm sure I'll be back next Monday too to talk about that. Probably next few. Maybe take one or two off for the draft. And here we are at the draft. And then it'll be camps, and then it'll be training camp time. So, the time just flies by. LimeWire, thanks for coming. Put my light on here. So hopefully you guys had a fun week. Let's see. So the past week, let's see. Let's go over what happened. Well, they had the NFLPA players voting on their facilities, and Washington Commanders got pretty much all bad scores, which I think was a little weird. The one in particular I saw, they said the food was a D plus, and I haven't eaten a cafeteria recently for the first time in years. If that's a D plus, I'm eating, H or something. I mean, the food's awesome. Just makes me wonder about players sometimes. I can see I'm not in front of my thing. Okay. You can see the wire. And see, they cut Charles Lenos, which Steve has it. Yeah, he's having hip surgery. They knew that he wouldn't be back probably this season. They cut him early, along with Logan Thomas and Nick Gates. So you cut a center and a tackle for a line that has no depth. But, I mean, Leno would have been pretty expensive. They saved a few million doing this. They've got somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 million to spend now, but then that's on 44 players. You got to have 53 by next Monday to count on their contracts. They won't have quite 80. They'll have a bit less than that. Because you got to sign the other guys. Monday begins the legal tampering, if you want to call it that anymore. And then Wednesday is the official. Next Wednesday will be the official. Here we go. Do they spend it all? I doubt it, but they'll spend it. They've got to spend some of it. And Bob, I'm glad you can make it back. The goal, I think, in the off season here basically is you got to rebuild the line some, especially in free agency. Both lines, really. You need edge rushers too. I mean, outside of interior defensive linemen, there really isn't anything you're not particularly looking for on this team. You find ballers, that's what's going to make a difference. So they got to spend some there. The draft right now, they got the number 2 pick. I've kind of come to the decision that for a while I was thinking, go ahead and get Fields from Chicago for a second. I'd do that, like Bryce is just mentioning here. Although Chicago hasn't tipped yet what they want to do, but they kind of said they would make a decision by free agency so that Fields wouldn't get held out to dry there. Gilberto, thank you so much for coming. Shartak, the whole roster doesn't stink. There's a few guys that are good. And if you ask me, what do I think they'll be record-wise this fall? Well, it's early to tell, but I'm going to bet I think they're around 500 this fall. I like the coaches. I like a lot of the energy. I was in the building one day, totally different feel with this group. There's a vibe. It's a positive vibe, unlike the old Snider era. And I really just feel like there's a lot of good things coming, and they won't come as quickly as you'd like, but, so Evan, my prediction on the pick, I think they're going with a quarterback. After listening to Adam Peters talking on, that's why I listen to what people have to say all the time so I can parcel it out a little better, or parse it out. I'm sorry, not parcel. That's when I mail your book to you. I think they're going quarterback. If you ask me which one, I don't know. They don't know. But if I'm going to guess, which just guess, because that's what we do, I think they go with May. Now, I know a lot of people want Daniels. I don't know anybody really wants Caleb Williams. I don't. I just see red flags coming from his camp. But it may be Drake May. If I have to throw money on the table right now, but that doesn't mean I won't change my mind 10 times. But I think they go quarterback. It's a chance to, you're going to have to swing for a fence here. A safe play would be to drop down, grab more picks, do that. But man, if you can get a quarterback, if you really feel in your soul that this is the quarterback, then go for him. And you still have Sam there too. Did I know Chris Morton? Asked Joel. Not really, met him, but didn't really know him personally. Certainly admired his work, and rest in peace. The guy fought cancer for, I think, 8 years. It's a long time. I've known people, that fight these battles. It's ugly. You get older, you see it a lot more. I wish Chris the best in heaven. I'm sorry, Mort in heaven. And I said maybe you can say hi to Clayton and a few other guys I know up there. A lot of sports writers have passed away in recent years, a lot of older ones. So, but he was solid. He was an old newspaper kind of guy, does what I do, doesn't just fly off and say stuff, doesn't make bargains with agents to be their, whore or whatever, like some guys. He was a solid guy. So I was really sad to hear of his passing. Bryce, do I feel attendance this season will be sold out games and more away fans? Not as much as last year. And partly last year had a lot of pretty good road teams coming here. This coming year is not quite as good a schedule as far as that goes and as far as people coming. So, there'll be the division games sold out, of course, but I don't think it's going to be quite as much. I think there will be some more fans, local fans there. It would be nice. The thing about Washington is Washington's not only an international city, but it's a national city and fans from everywhere. And nowadays, fans now are worried about betting and fantasy, and they don't necessarily are local fans. RFK was another thing that came up this week. So I'm sitting there watching C-SPAN working on a story. How often does that happen? The House approved the bill to extend DC's lease at RFK for 99 years. So I think we'll all be dead by then. But so now it goes to the Senate. It has not been scheduled for the Senate. It could be a while before it is. Nobody seems in a real big hurry, but it would help expedite maybe knocking the place down. But the Senate is expected to pass it too. So you kind of figure, we'll just do it and be done. Move on to, I guess the House and Senate have more important things to do than worry about an old stadium. But that would also help the city negotiate. I'm going to throw you a curveball here and say that I bet at some point you will hear that maybe Williams just isn't going to go to Alexandria. Maybe he'll go to the RFK site area. And city could use that against the Commanders at times about, do you want the site? From a city fiscal standpoint, it might be better that they do have an arena with a couple hundred dates a year versus a football team stadium with a dozen or 15, 20 place. But you're going to hear that. That doesn't necessarily mean it's true or that's going to happen, but you're going to hear it because that's how this game works. Who will we draft in the second round? Oh, Lord, Sarda. I can't even begin to do that. But I would say offensive lineman will be in the second round. But who? I don't know. It's too early. Bryce wants to know, when's the demo going to start with RFK? So RFK has been stripped bare. Okay. It's cleaned out. But they can't blow it up because they're still worried about air quality and, cancerous agents being in the air and killing us all. So they are going to dismantle the roof and lower it to the ground, and then it will be taken apart there. And then they'll get the cranes and knock down the cinder block and everything. Going to take a little while. I think it's going to happen soon being in the next few months. It'll take a little while after that. When are you going to be sitting in a new stadium on that site? If it does happen, Talked to a lot of people about that this week. 2030 keeps coming up, and you're going 2030. That's 6 years from now. But listen, the team hasn't even decided on a stadium yet. That's probably or by maybe the end of this year they talk about something like that. But next year for sure. Okay, so that's 2025. It takes really about 4 or 5 years. I mean, listen, just because the Congress has given the site over to DC for a longer time, you still got to get past the city council. This is an election year. So big things like this don't always happen in election years. And then, they're the ones with the money. I mean, the mayor can talk, but the city council funds things. There's going to be a fight. There'll be a fight there. Everybody's got to get a piece of it. Just like my favorite drama going on right now is down in Virginia, where Leonsis has made and possibly the dumbest move of his life and followed Jack Kent Cook's mistake down to the tent poles about not, trying to have the deal announced without it being signed first. And you cannot underplay the Richmond legislature because they don't like to fund things on the edge of Northern Virginia. And the woman who runs the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee is this 80-year-old woman down there who is fearless. And when she was told of this deal, they said, "Are you going to let the funding go forward for this arena?" And she literally says, "Do I have dumbass written across my forehead?" Wow, that got my attention. Louise Lucas. She's like, "I want these things for my district before I'm going to consider it." Now, this is how the sausage is made. It's just being made public for once. If I want this. So Leonsis is going to end up spending more money on that arena. So maybe at some point he thinks about the DC offer in the dark times. I still think it's going to end up in Alexandria. But it could be up over there at RFK too. I forget my point on why I was talking about that, but whatever. I did talk about maybe writing a book called Farewell RFK, but after a lot of consideration, I've decided not to. Mostly because I don't think you guys will buy it at any numbers to make it worth my time. And I'm trying to transition into semi-retirement more and have a little bit more free time in my life. So writing a book that I don't think is going to sell, that's it. But if you want to buy a book, speaking about books, this one's a little slow. All the presidents, what they drank, some first ladies too, recipes, fun stories. It's an easy read, not real big. $15. You can go to monumentalthoughts.com and get it there, and I'll sign it. Or you can go to Amazon and pretty much same price, and they won't sign it. So that's what goes on there. Also, since I have to be a whore, I say hit the thanks button down the bottom of the screen here if you can. That's that $. And help contribute to say, "Hey, Rick, I know you're spending some of your off-season time with us talking about the inside, and here's our reward here's a few dollars for saying thanks for helping out." Because quite frankly, I do this for a living. I don't do this for the fun of the game. I do it for a living. Joel, thanks so much. I'm glad you got it. Can I do an audiobook in Jack Kent Cook's voice, says Steve. Oh, by God, Steve, I couldn't do Jack Kent Cook's voice very well, partly because it's been so long since I've done it, and nobody anymore knows what it sounds like, you bloody idiots. So, by God, I won't do such a thing. But it's a good idea. So if you want to hear Jack more often, throw a few dollars on that $sign, and by God, he might do it. Okay, that was like a halfway impression of Cook. I used to do it much better, but we used to do it all the time when he was alive. So I'm out of practice. But it was kind of a softer voice, and he didn't really talk very loud. By God, you're listening to me. I mean, whew, yeah, I got cursed out by the squire a few times. It could be tough. All right, Gregory, is Kirk Cousins an option? No. Why would you want a guy who's 36, 37, a couple years here, develop a young quarterback? This team is not ready to win. So no sense spending a lot of money on a big quarterback that's not going to get you there. Develop your young quarterback so he's ready when you're ready overall. That's my thoughts on why they should go with a draft pick. Grievous, thank you for coming. Never give up. What are my thoughts about the quarterback? There you go. I just did it for you. Didn't even have to hit the thanks button. Also, hit the thumbs up button for me because that makes the algorithm happy. And, it's free to do that. So I would appreciate it. J-Dubs, back. I won my fantasy league. There you go. So I get to pick a new jersey for the upcoming season. All right. So who should you get? Well, I would go either Terry McLaurin because I know he's going to be here. I mean, I can't say free agency or draft. They don't even have a jersey for those guys yet, so I can't give you that. Um, yeah, I think I'd have to go with McLaurin and just kind of hold on that, because I like to think you'd have a guy for a few years. That's the worst part. Buy a jersey, they're expensive, and then the guy's gone. Oh, it sucks. So don't put your own name on it. Man, that's a no-no. A beat Rob jersey. Interesting, Bob. I don't know about that. I don't know. I mean, so far the 2 years haven't been great. And running backs don't last a long time anyway. But hey, it wasn't his fault. Eric Bieniemy barely used the guy, so I mean that might extend his career a little. Or the next offensive coordinator may have different ideas about people, like we just saw. Here's one guy this season. I'm really going to be interested to see what happens to is Cole Turner. I've liked Cole Turner since day one, and he hasn't done anything largely because of injuries. But last season they just didn't use him. And why? Why is that? Did he not practice well enough to have confidence in him? I don't know. But this team's going to use their tight end a whole lot more. This kid can catch the ball on the run, has pretty good hands overall. I think it's now or never for him here. But, this roster is going to change over. Of the 53, I bet, I guess I'd post my over under at 30, and I'd probably take the over. That's what happens when new coaches come anyway. Gregory, is Josh Harris and company still cleaning up from Snider? Oh, absolutely. I mean, they just announced they were putting more money in the stadium, and it now totals. They're not putting 75 million more in. They're now totaling 75 million. I guess a lot of it's for the rich people seats stuff. Good for them. But one thing they are adding is a new at the entrance gates, some kind of new detectors that will let people go through a lot faster. So those clunky old airport reject ones where one person at a time went through. They're going to do something different with that. I'm not sure. I haven't seen what it is. So Nelbert says first Drake. Thinking it's funny. I actually know Drake's high school football coach because I covered his father, the coach's father, and the coach a little. So I heard from him recently. I got to call him and see how the combine went. Thoughts on Cliff Kingsbury, J Dubs? He looks he looks super smart, as Gibbs used to say. I think he's a pretty smart dude. So I as an OC, I think he could be really good. As a head coach, he didn't do very well. But my only question for Kingsbury, and I don't know him well enough yet, is to say, will you get out of your own way? Because a lot of offensive coordinators do that. They get in their own way. Scott Turner was a classic example, trying to think if I do this, he'll do that. So I need to do this, so he'll do that. Dude, just run your play. Do what you do well. I mean, I remember a lot of really good coaches telling me at times, I'm not worried about what they do. I'm worried about what we do. If we do well, then we'll win. And that's a clear way of looking at it instead of just trying to play chess in your mind and not getting anywhere with it. I think that bothered EB at times too. Just run your plays, man. Do what you do. It's like the new phrase, you be you. I think a lot of coaches need to do that. Expectations on what 7 games next year? Oh, okay. So Freon's thinking to win 7, 8. Maybe steal 1, get 9. I don't know, but at this point, you might as well be optimistic. I mean, they'll beat that out of you by October. So I don't know. I'm going to do another year and see where I feel next year. How much I don't want to walk away and watch them do well. Geez, I want to see some of the good stuff again. But is it a Super Bowl team? No. Could they be in a Super Bowl in 3 years from now? Sure, the NFL lets you do that. You just have to have a lot of luck along the way. So my goal is always to be sports writing for 50 years. I'm 4 years away from that. So knock on wood, I feel well, so that'll help. Get older, aches and pains kind of slow you down a little. But let's hope so. Steve, thank you so much for chipping in. So yeah, this is how you do it. People say, hey, giving us the inside and goof. Everybody's trying to take off in the media right now because it's a little bit of a time to take a breath. But I'm still here. So I'll have a column in tomorrow on Odyssey.com, AUDACY, which is 1067 The Fan. And I'll talk more about quarterbacks tomorrow in my column, so you can read it there for free. But I do appreciate when people tip, or hey, buy the book if nothing else. Throw your money on down, you can get the book, and that'll help. If you're watching on replay, a lot of people, if you missed part of the show already, a lot of people watch about 15 minutes at times. They come in. That's why I repeat questions, because people come back, they join us, and the show goes back to replay after when we finish around 9, so you can see the earlier parts. Freon, if looking like a rebuild, I would say that's reasonable. That's what I would say. So, Bob, yeah, I can't walk away. Yeah, I know. Somebody told me the other day I have a pathological need to work. And I said that sadly is true, but I am trying to spend more time with my grandkids, and I didn't have the grandparents growing up, so they passed away. So I want to try to have them remember me, among all the things. Tony, how's my wife enjoying retirement? She's loving every minute of it. Keeping me busy too. Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to goof off. Now she can see what I'm doing. Not that I goof off much, but putting the garden in, starting the garden this week, hopefully after the rains finish. I'm planting blue pumpkins this year. I don't have a copy of it with me, but thought I'd try something new. Square watermelons, like they do in Japan. I have an Instagram garden. We eat stuff, but I like to make things weird, wild. Wife wants more sunflowers, that kind of stuff. So we're getting ready to plan out some traveling and all these kind of things. So just trying to make sure my health is okay. It's been spent a lot of time with a food poisoning, and it got worse with things for a while. But seem to be doing okay now. The last test said I'm clear of bacteria. So it sucks with getting old. I don't recommend it. J-Dubs reads command post. Well, thank you. Yeah, you should have got one the other day in the mail. So I got it right here. Matter of fact, here it is. Command Post is actually a tabloid. It comes out now just 7 times a year. It's scaled back. And it's got, this one's the free agency issue, and it has all the stuff on the top players you can go get, our commentary about what the team needs. And so it's got lots of this stuff in there about all the players. So you can go to Magster. There you go. Magster.com. See, this is the best part. You can't see me. And order it if you like. I've been an editor of it for a long time. Suzanne's been doing it too. Okay. And of course, something funny. My wife is just laughing hysterically on her phone. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she starts to show me pictures of what she did. All right, let me try it this way. So I see this one and I think, oh my God, I do look like Andy Reid. So wow. Okay. Andy Reid. And then I love this one. I actually like these. Are they AI? I don't know what she was doing exactly. I said, this makes me look like I'm a reverend or something. And I have recently preached in a church and been invited back to do it again. So I'm not going to be a preacher. But so anyway, I was just laughing. I said, these actually look good. Somebody said, I'm getting a virus. No, I'm kidding. They say I look like the mayor in Paw Patrol. Whatever that is. My grandkids watch it. But there's Andy Reid. And let's see. Not this way. Okay, that's Andy Reid. And there I am. I kind of look like Andy. It's weird. I'm a smaller version of Andy now because I'm down about 60 some pounds from my biggest ever. And that's all health scary, trying to get better. J-Dubs, thanks. I'm glad you heard the whole sermon. Well, that's good. Yeah, I've been helping reverends with their sermons for a long time because I said don't bore people. You're taking the time to go to church. You want to feel something that makes you feel better leaving. And a lot of reverends are good at what they do, but not so much with the actual sermons. So I've helped some, and they finally said, "Hey, put up or shut up. Let's see you do it." So okay, I did one about the 2 men who died with Jesus on the cross, and how it's never too late. And as we found. So they asked me to come back again. So at some point I will. Freon, time to move to Vegas and walk the strip as Coach Reed. Yeah, I don't know. That would be funny. If I was back where, my old fighting weight, maybe we could pull that off. I think now people would just say, yeah, you kind of look like him. But when I weighed a lot more, maybe. Um, Steve, all these people have an obsession with my wife, that beautiful woman on the picture behind me. Just been trying to get to things you never could get to and start to have more time with our friends and see them again that we don't ever seem to. So, and more time with the grandkids and just more time with people. And we just moved to a new home about a little over a year ago. So we did a lot of that work in the past year. Whew, that was a lot of work. And pretty soon the grass is going to need cutting. So she'll tell me to do that. I think you could tell spring's finally come to Washington last couple of days. So I'm going tour guiding again. If you're coming to town, you want to go out and see the stuff. Yeah, I'm doing tour guiding, including Wednesday when I could get to do a lovely stroll in the pouring rain. That's expected. That's going to be fun. Got to earn your money. Greg, free agency. Do I think Josh Harris will be as aggressive as Danny's days? No, not Danny's early days. Those were stupid, crazy times. Last 10 years, Dan was not really a big guy in free agency. On that, I don't think they had the cash to really pursue people with big bonuses and all that too. So I think they'll make some moves, but they want to do more of a draft, but the draft takes longer too. You need a little more free agent. You can't draft all their needs. You got to go free agency too. The balance is where everybody has to figure it out. Thanks, Bobby. I like the pictures. My wife laughed and I said, I like these pictures. I look good. I don't say that very often. So I said, give them to me. I'm going to use them. You'll see it on my Twitter feed and here on my YouTube. I'll put up something new. Freon, I think Peters is going to have the say. Well, absolutely. I mean, he's kind of I wouldn't say the tiebreaker. He's the guy who gets to make the choice. David, where does Josh Harris sound to bring up NFL satisfaction grades? Okay. So the team is putting money into things. Now they can't change the practice facility for a little while. And part of that is suddenly DC, Maryland's thinking, if we're going to build you a stadium, we want you to bring the facility to our tax district. So that's a possibility. And I think once they know where they're going to build, then they can know whether they need to move where. They would like to leave the facility in Ashburn and build something new. But I think it's going to take about 3 years. So there's only so much you can do there, but they have made some pretty nice strides in the place. It's just old. I mean, they moved there right after the last Super Bowl in '92. Remember, first day, Joe Gibbs didn't have a key. Had to go banging on doors, and a janitor finally came around. He was the first guy there at the new park, and the janitor had to open the door for him. So it's 30-some years old now. So, and of course, the money in the NFL is so different. That the Redskins were the first team to have a year-round training facility. It was the early '70s, and they were there for about 20 years, and now they've been at the new one for 30. But yeah, they were the first one. The NFL teams did, and the team actually practiced downtown a lot, like on Georgetown campus, things like that during the season at times, and they had an office downtown, but it's totally different, a million miles from where they are now in terms of a lot of things. Where are we at? We're halfway through the show already. Wow. Okay. And only Steve has chipped in some dough. Come on, you tightwads. Let's go. It's $5, $2. I don't care what you give, but give something to show me a little love here that, hey, Rick, we appreciate you doing this. Otherwise, we'll just take everything you do for free and watch the Wolves come to your door. So, Tony, what happened to Kevin Willard and the Terps? Yeah, 15-15. I've been watching the Terps since '73. This isn't the worst year I've seen, but close. And they just didn't play well at times. And I'm not sure if it's this NIL thing that's messed up everything. But having said that, there are teams still winning, and they're dealing with the NIL stuff. So I give them another year, and then if it's another disaster like this, we got to go. Maryland's always had great basketball, but and I thought Kevin Willard was a nice choice. But But man, it kind of almost makes me, we miss Gary. And Gary's been going now about 10 years. That's the crazy part. Even the women's team didn't do that well this year, and that was surprising. Yeah, Tony, I agree. The chemistry, there didn't seem to be any chemistry on this Maryland basketball team. I don't think anybody from DC is making the NCAA tournament. It won't be Georgetown, certainly. I mean, Mason is getting a little hot, but they pretty much have to win their conference to get in. They're just didn't anything this year. Who we got? Just a few days left of the regular season. It's been a tough year to watch. Never give up. Ooh, knew this was coming. Ding, 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 ding. Man, it only took half hour for this one. Could the Commanders go on Russell Wilson in some capacity? Here's the thing. Why do you want to go for Russell Wilson? I mean, you could get him cheaper than normal because whatever his next team pays will come off of Denver's tab. But people aren't stupid. They're not going to pay him full price and give Denver a free pass. But you can't sign him for $1 either. So the NFL has some balance there. But to me, this team is not going to be ready to win for at least a couple years. So get your rookie quarterback, grow him in the game, take some lumps for a couple years with him if you have to. If you get a guy like Russell Wilson, look at the Jets, this backfired on them. But if you're not ready for that guy to be the stopgap, you want a guy like Peyton Manning was in Denver years ago. He can get you got a team ready to go. You just need this last piece for a couple of years, pay him, win a title. But that's not where the Washington is. So go develop your young quarterback. It could be Sam Howell too, whatever. So that you have them ready and you grow together as a team. Otherwise, okay, we got a couple, the rest of the team's ready to go, but now the quarterback's too old. We got to get a new quarterback. Oh, Lord. This missed timing just dooms you to a cycle of nothing. If we want to talk about nothing, we can talk about the Wizards too. My God, they're not even going to win, 15 games. This might be the worst ever. I mean, they've lost like 19 in a row or something, and they're 9-50 something now. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Oh, I can't believe it. All right. Gregory, heard a rumor the Commanders could be an international game visitor. The only one really could be the Buenos Aires thing where Philadelphia is the host team. That could be the game, but the way the ones in Europe are, they wouldn't be a visiting team in any of those schedules. So maybe the one down Buenos Aires, but it'd be kind of cool. Wouldn't mind going to that. I went to the Osaka game years ago. I guess, Brand Weinstein also went, so he's still around too. Rode on the team plane, 16, 17 hours each way. Ooh, that was quite the trip. But it was fun. It was, I got to see Japan for free. Why not? And hottest place. We were there in August. It was so hot, it took your breath away. Oh my God. And I remember the Osaka game. One of the cool things, it wasn't a big crowd, and the Japanese are very polite people, and so they didn't really cheer. So you could hear the quarterback calling out the plays because nobody's cheering at anything. And then finally, there were a bunch of U.S. servicemen there that got the crowd kind of realizing when, somebody nailed someone, you'd hear them going, ooh. And, they started cheering a little bit in the second half of the game. But it was pretty quiet. Man, that was a long trip, though. I'm glad I did it. Say that. Michael, after the combine, who are you most excited about us signing during the draft? Well, it's too early to even conjecture about that. But if they want to go Drake May or Daniels, I'm okay with either of those. I just do not want to see Caleb here. There's too many red flags in so many different ways. I could talk about that for a while, and I'm not. But, never give up. Where do I think Cousins is going? I think he stays in Minnesota. If he's smart, that's probably the best place for him to finish his career. They'll pay him reasonable. I mean, Kirk's always about the money. I get it. I would be too, to a point. But at some point, you realize money's not everything. Do what makes you happiest, where you fit best. Never take a job. All you young bucks out there, never take a job just for money that you're going to hate, because life's too short to hate what you're doing every single day. Take that. Also, put money in your 401k. So that's how I can be semi-retired now and not have to worry about money. And now, for the first time in my life, I can do what I want to do, or not be led around by the money. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be putting some tipping money on here, because that also shows me my time is valuable. But I guess you guys aren't. So if you have to, $15 for the book, Presidential Pours. You can go to monumentalthoughts.com, get it from me. I'll sign it. Or you can go to Amazon, let them make more money. Tony, that's crazy, Tony. Thank you so much, but that's a little too generous on that. But I do appreciate it. I'll say that. So, see you guys. You don't have to be like Tony. I mean, that's a big gesture. We talked about this, last week. A lot of y'all really chipped in to help Mike Sellers, and they reached $100,000 for him. In case you missed it, they had a GoFundMe because Mike's had a lot of heart problems, a lot of surgeries. Why the NFL insurance doesn't cover all this, I don't know the particulars, but I know the family felt like we really need help. And fans stepped up, and Joe Gibbs gave $10,000. I know I saw a former player give $1,000. I gave a few bucks, but a lot of people, I think there were more than 900 donors. So a lot of people gave the 10, 20 bucks to him, and it added up. So I'm hoping it helps Mike. Good guy, man. He was a beast as a player. Whew. Dude was just, wow. To there. Michael, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Frank, who is the worst one that got away? From Humphreys, Trent, Cousins, Brad, or Gannon? Or definitely not Gannon. I'd kick him out. I'd say Brad over Trent. And, Cousins hasn't won anything particular. Humphreys was a nice player. They just had Rippon already. So poor Sam Humphreys. They made him fly to London for the exhibition game in '92. Got all the way to London and then said, "You've been traded to San Diego. Now we want you to fly back." Whew. And he did. Man, that's a lot of flying. I always felt bad for staying on that. Suzanne, thank you so much. I definitely appreciate the contribution on this. Mayhew, that's who it was. Mayhew donated 1,000, said Tony. I remember it was an old player. Mayhew is still around. The front office. So is Jason Wright, for those of you who wonder. Jason's working on the stadium issues more than anything now. Corporate sponsorships, things like that. They just hired a guy to worry about the new naming rights on the stadium because FedEx bailed. They had a contract out and they took it. And quite frankly, $15 million a year, they can get more than that now. So FedEx did them a favor, freeing it up. Suzanne sees the red flags too. See, I think a lot of people do. I was one of the early people to say this, but since then there's been a tidal wave. Now, Caleb Williams may come out and be the next Johnny Unitas. God bless him. Good luck to that, buddy. I hope you do. I'm not rooting against the guy. I just don't. It kind of scares me on some things. And we all know what they are. Suzanne, the Spurs have only won 13. Okay. I love San Antonio. I visited there about 5 years ago. It was awesome. Awesome place. Hot. I was there in the summer. And I always heard the Alamo in San Antonio. You go to the Alamo and people say, "Man, you wouldn't believe it. It's just this little thing." And I get there and I'm like every other tourist going, "Where is it?" And they go, "It's right there." What, that? I thought you kept the Mexican army out of this place for a couple of weeks. I could have SEALs Team 6 in there in 10 minutes. I mean, those guys were tough. Fought to the end. They were brave men. But the Alamo is this little place. It's amazing they kept out the enemy for so long. So I like to go visit historical places. Did a trip from Graceland to the Alamo. Went all through Texas, saw a lot of cool stuff. So now they, knock on wood, the COVID pandemic and all that stuff's over with. We're going back on the road. And now my wife's retired. We can go whenever we want. So I think Vegas trip's coming up in May, but then we're going somewhere in the mountains with the grandkids and all. And I want to go to Europe too. So I'm even toying with the idea of missing a couple of weeks during the season. I've never done that. This will be my 50th training camp, including the ones I was in myself. So I'm entitled to a couple of days off. That's all I'll say. I don't go every day anymore to camp. I'm not a beat writer anymore. I'm a columnist for 106.7 The Fan, among other things, and Rick Snider's Washington. Rick Snider's Washington is now up to 15 million views. So thanks you all, like we're doing now. Thank you all for coming. Let's see. The 15-foot wall. Yeah, but I don't know, was it that high in some places? Maybe it was originally. Um, okay, Michael lives north of Austin. Austin was nice. I spent a day. I only spent a day there. I wish I'd spent more. My wife wanted to go to some place we learned how to two-step. I not exactly. What I learned is like dancing's a lot like footwork for offensive linemen. So not that I was any good at that, but it's a little bit like that. Just Sean. Speaking of stadium naming deals, how have the Nats gone so long? I was talking about that today. They said in the early years, well, we're in a recession, and if we don't want to do a long-term deal because we won't get the money we would get in good times. All right, but good times have come and gone since, and you don't have any money for naming rights of the stadium, and you've left a lot of money on the table. It's amazing. I think they were dumb, but I don't mind calling it Nats Park. James. Oh, by the way, Commanders are now calling themselves Commanders Field, but it'll be changed by the time they play games. So I'm not even going to get hung up on that. James says, I'm very close to 5,000. Yeah, it was like one or two. So if you're watching me, you're probably a subscriber. But if you're not, hit the subscription button too. Get me over 5,000. It's symbolic, but hey, I'll take it. I mean, we grow. It's growing. I don't have the huge numbers like a lot of media does. I don't know why, but I do appreciate the faithful who got many of you come every Monday. Greg, hope we are not on Hard Knocks. Well, they won't be on Hard Knocks because it's a brand new coach, so they can opt out. I don't think they'll opt in. So coaches usually don't. Well, I don't know. Quinn may not mind. I haven't asked him that, but I don't think anybody volunteers to be on Hard Knocks. They're so afraid that somebody's going to see something. Oh my God. Whatever. I laughed one year. Somebody was telling me, I can't believe how much cursing coaches do because they don't do it in front of the camera so much. And I just laughed. So where do you think I learned the words from? Yeah, there's a lot of cursing that goes on, but you try not to do it in front of the cameras. I mean, I remember once Norv Turner slipped on camera and did it, and his wife just gave him a hard time. And he was pretty good about not cursing on camera, but Norv was a championship cusser off camera. The only one I would say is not per se like Gibbs. I never heard Gibbs say a curse word ever. I mean, I didn't hear every word out of his mouth, but I've never heard Gibbs say one. Didn't really hear Spurrier too much curse either, or Zorn. They're different guys. So Michael, my favorite Redskins interview I've ever done. Maybe that's impossible for me to answer, but I would say Shar Pradanish came. He was the first Iranian player, and I met him, and he was just an interesting guy. And we're still like Facebook friends, I guess. I hear from him now and then. Shar's now out in Los Angeles as I think a real estate developer, and cool guy, just really an interesting person. And I just remember meeting him, thinking, "Wow, that's cool." But I've met a ton of great guys out there. I like Dan Turk. He was nuts. He was nuts. But poor guy died of cancer a year after his career ended. But he was an interesting dude. I liked him a lot. So, all right, Nelbert, got to hit the like button. Thank you, Nelbert. For getting everybody hit that thumbs up thing. Cost you nothing. Helps the algorithm. Do appreciate it because we have to. That's why I say at the very beginning of the shows, please like, share, subscribe, and comment because that makes the algorithm go, ooh, thank you, Rick. I will send you people. It really does work that way. Bob, yeah, Norv could use the F word. So used it at me a few times, I used it back. But the thing I loved about coaches, especially football guys, if you had a problem, you could argue it out and you'd walk away with no real hard feelings over it most of the time. So I appreciated that about coaches. What was the guy's name? I think we're talking about Shar Pradanish, Michael. Shar, Shar, Pourdanesh. Played for the Baltimore Stallions, and they won that when they had a Grey Cup of teams here in the U.S. Baltimore won. He was an offensive lineman for them. Then he came down here and was here, I think, 3 years in the 90s. When did tickets go on sale? You can buy them now, Vernie. I'm assuming you're talking about Commander season. I didn't get season tickets now. I haven't heard if individual game tickets are up yet or not. It's not usually on my radar to notice on there. All right, so we got 15 minutes to go. Wow, this is a fast hour. Usually I don't bring a lot of material to talk about because I just go ahead and answer your questions, which is probably what we talk about anyway. So RFK thing, moving along, going to the Senate. Don't know when. Doesn't really matter because they're still in talks about things. The players gave the team bad remarks on a lot of things. I thought it was a little unfair on there. Michael, I know Shar. Maybe that's his real first name, and we just called him Shar. He came from Iran. His father worked for the Shah of Iran, and when the Shah was overthrown in the 70s, Shar and his family moved to the U.S. and told a lot of great stories about all that. And he was huge. I mean, the Iranian people are not necessarily a big people like NFL size. I mean, Shar was a legit 300-pound dude. He's huge. He wasn't fat. He was solid. So, he was the first person of Iranian, as he taught me, it's not Iran, it's Iran. So I learned a lot about it. I learned a lot from players. They come from all different likes. Do I have a prediction for the Nats season, Steve? Pain. No, I think looks like they got a little bit of pitching. Looks like they finally getting some of these minor leaguers and maybe be somebody on the roster. I don't like that the Lerner family decided to keep the team and spent nothing really. They got the guy from my cousin Vinny, Joey Gallo or Callo or whatever the real name is. They didn't really do anything in the off season. So, but they did better than we thought last year. They won 70 games or so. I don't know if they're 500 this year, but maybe they won't be disgraceful. Won't be Wizards like. Do I think the crowds would be better? Not with visiting fans, Greg. I think the crowds will be a little better, but not measurably until they start winning games. 3 of the 8, or I guess this year they got 9 home games in the regular season, or is it? See, so it's 9 home games this year for regular season and 1 preseason game. 3 of them are divisions. Those are going to be opposing fans, and I don't know. Do I have the schedule? I don't have the schedule offhand. It's probably in here somewhere. Like I said, I was showing the command post. This has been around over 30 years. It just was called Warpath for a long time before. And we've got all this stuff on free agency. And God, it's unbelievable how much was written. So if you want to get a subscription, you can just go to Maxter.com and you can get it there with them. It's not that much. All right. According to Google. Okay. Teddy Strongbear. Ooh, I like that name. Coach Quinn's favorite sneakers are the Jordan 11. Okay. What are my favorite sneakers? Listen, I grew up as a poor kid. We had KF Flyers or something, We bought our tennis shoes at the grocery store where didn't have much money for anything, Jordans and stuff like that. When you grow up like that, you never spend money like that, which is why I can now retire if I want. Or work as much or little as I want. But I would say I do. I wear New Balance like most old guys because I have a really wide foot. New Balance is one of the few shoes that does that. And it's not that expensive to buy. So I have a pair of black that I can wear everywhere. I don't spend money on shoes. Don't spend money on things. When you grow up without stuff, you don't really spend money on stuff as you get older. At least I don't. That's why I had to tell my daughters when they were growing up, things don't make you happy, but you can't sit on a mountain of gold. I do spend stuff. I spent some money recently for my wife when she retired. I got us e-bikes. E-bikes are awesome if you haven't had one. I'm in my 60s, so I was riding my e-bike down the trails, and I had it up to at least 20 miles an hour, and they say it can go 30. But on these back trails, you don't want to hit something 30 miles an hour. I'll be laying on the ground dead. So, I did spend some money on that. And luckily, I had a connection, got me a discount because they're expensive. Thoughts on Sean Taylor's statue? Are there plans to update it? No plans that I've heard of. I thought it was just an awful attempt at that. I remember when they unveiled it, I was standing right there. I did video of it. It's on my YouTube channel somewhere. And it was sort of like there's several hundred people around, and they're chanting 21, 21 while they're going to take off the tarp. And then it goes silent. And I felt the same way because it was like you were hitting the 7-second pause button. Like, is that it? That's it? I thought we were going to have a statue. They never said that, but, and it was like a mannequin they pulled out of a, apparel store. I thought it was a really poor attempt. I think they should scrap it and start over. When does the president's wives' drinks come out? Well, Mike, more people need to buy the president's one before I'll do the wives. Kenny, thanks for the chat. Well, thank you for coming. What's it going to take to get B. Mitch in the Hall of Fame? There's some things going on behind the scenes about Hall of Fame voting that I can't talk about right now. No, I'm not becoming a voter. But something that I think will help this team have more of a voice on it. Also, guys like, you all saw Peter King retired. He always seemed to be anti-Redskins. So his voice will be out of the room now. So now that Devin Hester is in, I think B. Mitch should be in. I always thought that. I think Gary Clark should be in. And, of course, Jacoby. I think Jacoby will be in the next 5 years. Gary, I'm not sure. And I said, well, if you add up Gary's catches, he has almost 800 if you add his USFL catches. And I was talking with Daryl Green one day, and he goes, but that's USFL. I said, it's called the Pro Football Hall of Fame, not the NFL Hall of Fame. I think you can add your numbers. Nobody ever does that, but I think you should. And I think Gary was every bit as good as Monk. I know people think that, but I liked Gary. He was a tough player. Tony, it's fashionable wearing New Balance now? Cool. All right. I'm an influencer. There you go. Terrence, does free agency pickups change what Commanders would do it too? Probably not, because I don't see them going for any kind of real quarterback in free agency. Now, you've got Kirk. You've got, I wouldn't go Russell Wilson either. You've got Baker Mayfield. And who am I missing? There's one more. Somebody else I'm missing. Fields. Justin Fields expected to be traded in the next week. I don't know. I just thought the way I watched them talk at the combine, like, Adam Peters, I think they're drafting a guy. So I don't think they'll really do that. It'd be nice if they kept Jacoby Brissett. I think Jacoby's going to try and look for a place where he can play more. I don't know where that place would be. So he may end up staying. I liked him. I thought he did a good job. Of course, you still have Sam too. You think we went the Hall game? I guess Greg's asked if they went the Hall of Fame game, or I don't know. Listen, if they get Jacoby in or something, they may play that year in the Hall of Fame game. Okay, Start Hack. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Well, what makes you think the current coaching staff is better than the last one? Well, I think the last one checked out mentally. That's one big part of that. They checked out mentally. And when you do that, your players check out mentally. And nobody cared. And I think Del Rio definitely, I think Ron knew it from the start. And they have no energy. Now, EB was a madman, and I know offensive players didn't like him. We could go on and on and discuss that, but he's gone now. So I think the coaching staff is. I like Joe Witt. He's going to bring the enemy. Joe Witt is basically Doc Walker. If you got a army of these guys, will own the world. I mean, they're high intensity guys. I like a lot of what I saw from Witt, just meeting them. But I think they have a solid. They did an interesting thing with the coaching staff. They didn't get everybody's friends to join them. They got it. Lincoln used to call it a team of rivals. Abraham Lincoln appointed his cabinet full of people that opposed him, didn't like him, were from the other party. But he said, "Yeah, but we can be better together with opposing ideas and work them out." That's what this coaching staff is doing. They actually did team building exercises. I don't think I've ever heard of a coaching staff having to do that, but just to get to know each other, because they don't know each other that well. They just respect each other and heard of each other. That's pretty cool. I mean, that may really help versus everybody just agreeing with everything and they all go down together, like the last group. So I think that's kind of cool. Bob, thanks for coming. Mike, thank you so much for kicking in. New stadium. I think it'd be at RFK. So I think also if you get the new stadium, um, you're going to sell naming rights. There's no doubt of that. So let's just say it's Verizon. Maybe it's Verizon Stadium at RFK Park or something. It's going to be at RFK something. And then people like me and all of us will say RFK all the time and not say the corporate sponsor name, and that'll tick them off. But they don't run our minds. We're free to say what we want. It's America. So sorry, that's your gamble. And the new practice facility would depend upon where the stadium goes, maybe. I think we'll know all of this in a year from now. Teddy, what about Dave Butts in the Hall of Fame? No, very good player. He's one of those guys. He's the one, like Joe Theismann's one, B. Mitch maybe one, that were just on the cusp, and you couldn't quite get them in. I think that Butts made the Hall of Fame. I wouldn't be against it. I think he was a dominant player of his time, and that's what you have to be. You can't just be a really good player. You have to say, did this guy dominate? Was he like one of the best of his era? Because otherwise, it's just a Hall of Very Good. You need the greats. So I don't know. I never hear anybody talk about Dave Butts. I remember years later, I'd met him. He came to practice one day, and he must have lost 100 pounds. And I'm like, wow, I never thought he was heavy. I never thought he could lose 100 pounds. I mean, some of these guys are just big human beings, but he was so thin. I mean, Mark Schlereth did that to me. He walks across the hotel lobby, said hi to me. I didn't know who it was at first. I was thinking, Derek Smith, who was an offensive lineman, another guy like that, lost 100 pounds. You recognize them. So a lot of times, especially linemen, they either get really big or they lose it all. Like Jacoby still looks like Jacoby because he's just one big human being. Dexter Manley, another guy. They weren't fat. They're just huge on there. If you meet Dexter, do not shake Dexter's hand because he will break your hand. He's a strong guy. Okay, Terrence, any thoughts on the reason they kept the quarterback coach if he wasn't very good last year? Maybe nobody listened to him. I'm glad they kept Ryan Kerrigan. I was the one I was hoping for. They have 25 people, I think it is, on the staff now, or 26 of coaches and a little bit of support staff people. Man, is that a lot? I remember when there was like 8 coaches. That's why I can't park in the complex anymore. We all park in the field because there's no spaces anymore. That's a lot of people. But I'm glad for Ryan. He's got a young family here. Keep him consistent. I'm happy for him. Let's see. Robert, what local shops would be the best to find skins gear? Coming from Dallas. Well, most of the sporting good places have it. Like, is Modell still around? Like that. Sports Authority, those kind of places. They don't really have local sporting goods stores like they used to in like the old days when the team was winning Super Bowls. There were several really good private ones. They're all gone. It's pretty much because the NFL did everybody dirty. They basically said to all these people who had stores and been buying and selling gear for so long, we need you to do $1 million order to remain one of our preferred sellers. These stores can't do that. Only chains can do that. And that's what they knew because they wanted to force out the small ones and put all the power into the chains. And so those kind of places disappeared. That's why they're gone. So, I mean, you can go to the stadium too. The stadium store is usually open. I mean, I Google it to make sure, but their Hall of Fame store is usually open during the day. So you can go to FedEx Field and as they have an exterior entrance you can go through. Let's see. Tony got paired with George Rogers at a charity golf tournament. Oh, okay. He is a big dude. Yeah. George Rogers was a big dude too. A lot of them are. I mean, but it's funny because if you look at like Jacoby's stats or Manley stats, they would just be kind of average size and weights anymore. But back then they were so much bigger than everybody. I don't know. They're still big human beings. You can't have an offensive lineman. To me, 6'8", 6'6" is really what you want an offensive lineman because that way the quarterback can see over them somewhat, and they can still get low enough in a stance. I've seen guys 6'10", massive human beings, but not good linemen because they can't get low enough for leverage in their stances against the defensive guys. It actually works against them. Plus, then they're blocking lanes. You can't see over Has FedEx Field gotten a new name, Terrence? Well, they're going to call it Commanders Field till they sell a name, and they just hired a guy to do that, to go find a naming partner. So for the interim, it's called that, but I think come August it'll be called something else. What? I have no idea. Wegmans, Gregory. I've seen some stuff at Wegmans because there's a Wegmans down the street from Commanders Park, but they don't have a lot. And they used to sell. I used to see Ravens stuff in some of them, but in Maryland, it's the Ravens have a big following too. So, kind of some places you see more Ravens gear than anything. James, need more speed on the O line. Well, it needs some blocking on the O line, that's for sure. I mean, right now you got Cosme. What else you got? I guess Stromberg will be the center. At least he'll get first shot at it. He's coming off an injury. Otherwise they're kind of open up. I mean, Cornelius Lucas is a free agent. I would re-sign him because I find him to be a really good spot player who can step in several places, short term, do a decent job. Not a 16, 17 game starter, but he's a very good backup. He made $4.5 million last year. No reason why you can't. You need guys like that. Not everybody can be a brand new kid. Have they released Wiley yet? No, Suzanne, they have not. They may have to keep him. Let's see. All right. Ding, 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 ding. It's 9:00. Woo. That means I can go watch Bob Loves Abishola. Something like that. Please, Network TV, come back and let me watch something. Kroger Field at Trader Joe's Stadium. I've never been in a Trader Joe's, Terrence, but my dad used to work at Kroger back in the 60s, among the many jobs he had. So that would be interesting. But Kroger's aren't up here in Maryland anymore. They used to be. My dad worked at one right on the DC line. But they don't have Kroger's here. Although I heard a Bucky's is coming to I think somewhere around the Fredericksburg area. I really want to go see a Bucky's. For those of you, it's like the biggest gas station place you've ever been. They have like 100 pumps. They have them like on 95 down south. People tell me they got a whole wall of beef jerky. Okay, that's fine dining. But those of you out there who have been Bucky's, you would know. I hear great things about it. I'd like to go see one. Fredericksburg's not too far from DC. I'd be willing to go down. I've heard Kevin has heard about them too. I mean, it's supposed to be awesome. Kind of go see it. It's a humongous place. So I'd be willing to drive down to Fredericksburg and see them. Okay. I'm sorry. So Suzanne's been to them too, I guess. All right, good. We have a lot of Sheets and Royal Farms and these kind of things. They're fine Wawas. A friend of mine owned a gas station once. He said, I make a lot more money inside the store than I do at the gas pumps. Matter of fact, my cousin owns a gas station, owns a BP, and he seems to be doing quite well. So, okay. So, Terrence, you got to go to 3 Bucky's and send us pictures. Oh, Tony said, lives up to the hype. Okay, well, good. Not many people do. Dallas has them too? Okay, I didn't know that, Terrence. And Michael lives in Temple, Texas. I have no idea where that is. There's a Bucky's 5 minutes from you. All right. So you got to go. I don't know. Send pictures. See what it's like. I don't know. If you got a whole wall of beef jerky, I guess you got a big place. Oh, my God. All right. So, Albert, thank you so much for coming. All right. I will be back next Monday. If you're watching if you've missed part of the show, you want to see it, a replay button will come along in just a couple of minutes. Hit the thumbs up button for me if you can before you leave. That makes the algorithm happy. We'll be back next Monday. We can talk free agency. So probably at least the next 2 Mondays before I take maybe a break for the draft. We'll see. I say this, and yet here I am doing nothing else. So why not? On there. Teddy, thank you so much for coming. When's going to New Kent? That's a little farther. New Kent's just below Williamsburg, Virginia. And there's one in the mountains on 80. Okay, I might have to look at that for you on. And gas is $2.89. Okay, so gas where I live in Southern Maryland is like $3.19. So it's well worth the trip, but I'll burn up all the gas going down there. Stafford, Virginia. Yeah, I heard about that one too, Greg. I guess there's only time for this show up here. If you've ever driven 95 like to Florida, the south of the border signs, they start 100 miles away Every mile, there's a sign for south of the border. So I drove it once. I drove to Disney World in the early 80s, my wife and I. And after 100 miles, I said, man, we got to we got to stop and see this. And not only that, we stayed there. It was wasn't high tech there then. This was 1982. That's the last time I was there. But it was like where all the junk shop stuff goes to die, and you can buy it there. It was kind of cool to see it. So I don't know. I'd like to see these places. Hey, get in the car and go see some places. It's fun. All right, but anyway, here I am goofing off. More is still taking it. Thank you all for coming very much. I do appreciate it. Wally Klein. I remember Wally Klein. Yeah, he was massive, Kenny. And so don't forget, I have the 2-minute videos on 6 a.m. and then dinner time on the back. Only 200 miles? Ooh, okay. 369 for gas in Arizona. No, that's crazy. They're cheating you. Well, you tell I must be crazy. I'm sitting here answering questions. Anyway, but thank you all. And once again, let me try it again. Thank you all for coming. You can watch on replay videos morning and evening. If you want to read about presidents, it's an easy read. I'd have a lot of fun with it. I don't test you. It's on Amazon and Monumental Thoughts, and I appreciate anybody buying it. So thank you all again. I will see you next Monday, and appreciate you coming. I'm Rick Snider for Rick Snider's Washington. Thanks for coming. I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.